Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Right Media Group Chronicles. Today, I'm talking with Kevin Tucker, who is the founder of Collide Creative. He's been running his agency for nearly 30 years, and he's built his entire business on one thing: trust. Today, we're talking about how he helps clients communicate, why listening is the most important part of design, and what it takes to build a sustainable business doing work you actually believe in. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thanks for that intro.
Kevin, would you mind to dive into your background and what really, if you can still remember, it's been 30 years, but what really led you into building your own agency?
Uh, you know, um, I was just kind of a weird, wandering, creative kid, and I like to make things and come up with ideas. And I had, a couple of great teachers who sort of led me down the path of finding out what graphic design is, and
Mm.
exploring what advertising was about, exploring the idea of making something that helped other people communicate kind of pulled me in. And I thought, okay, I'd like to study that. So I went to college for graphic design and got an internship at a music company, a record label in Nashville. And ended up turning into a full-time job. And many steps and evolutions later, here I am running my own little agency and making it happen, I guess.
Yeah. So who is it that you're working with today? Is there like a specific niche, anyone that you sort of tend to work with, or is it a little bit of everything?
I mean, in some ways, I would say it's a little bit of everything, but there are three areas that I particularly work in as far as clientele. There's entertainment, and of course, when we say Nashville entertainment, a lot of that is country music, although not
Nice.
exclusively.
Love a
Then
good country music.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
well, we can
I
talk about
do.
that in a second for sure. And then there's some nonprofit organizations,
Mm.
including including some that serve people experiencing homelessness. That also includes churches and ministry organizations, which is the church that I attend. And then corporate communications, which that feels like a weird mix of things, right? But that's I didn't set out to, at the beginning of my career to serve those three things, but those are needs that I've found that I can help fulfill along the way, and forge relationships, and I enjoy the variety of serving those three things. There's the occasional, things that don't fit into those categories that come along. I don't definitely don't turn those away, but those are the three focus areas. And then what the work itself looks like within those can vary wildly. It's all
Okay.
centered on creating brands that make impact. Sometimes that looks like product packaging. Sometimes it looks like digital advertising. Sometimes it looks like website design. Sometimes it looks like advertising. And so even within those, I mean, there's a broad array this way and a broad array this way. But it's fun and it's an adventure, and it's all, even though among the variety, it's united by helping people communicate.
Mhm.
The language I use to describe what I do is that I help people communicate with lasting impact through the strategic use of design.
Mm.
And there's that pun that's inherent in that because my company's called Collide and we help make impact. Get it? Right.
Mm.
But, and as goofy as the wordplay is, I believe that that's, what I'm here to do is to help people
Mhm.
make an impact. And, particularly when there's something that, whether it entertains people or whether it's, actually impacts their lives in a tangible way. That's all worthwhile, and all we need entertainment, in our lives, maybe more than ever in this day
Mhm.
and age, right? But there are people whose lives are genuinely improved by some of the organizations that I work with, and that's fulfilling as well.
You talked about entertainment and how much we need it now more than ever. I agree, especially after COVID. I think a lot of people went through self realization. They suddenly have so much time on their hands. And actually, because you mentioned Bible and churches that you go to as well, there's an interesting study now that apparently now more than ever, the Bible sales have skyrocketed sort of after during COVID, because more and more people are like, they realize there is a higher power out there and they're sort of exploring that aspect of it.
Sure, and that makes sense. People realize that there's something beyond themselves, and there's something about being in need that makes you have a more humility focused approach to life. When you're self sustaining and you're very proud of yourself and patting yourself on the back, that sense of pride can actually close you off to looking beyond yourself. So when their need increases, it makes sense that people would look for something beyond. And I'm a believer in God, and it definitely encourages finding it in that. But lots of people, I think it's an inherent human thing to seek out that higher power. I think we're designed for that,
Yeah.
and it's good to hear that that's happening.
And that community aspect as well of the church. I mean, for example, for me, it's difficult to explain what is God, or there's so much religion out there. And I have to say, some of it's like, come on, like there's so many wars that got started from religion back in the day,
Well,
right?
in the
So I
name
don't
of yes,
yeah, I don't believe in religion, I believe in God, and it's difficult to explain it, and actually I haven't dived into that in any of my podcasts, weirdly enough, but it's a sort of feeling that you know somebody's there and somebody's looking out for you when you're praying, or when you're sort of in the zone. When somebody comes to me and they're like, "Oh yeah, God's not real," like, and they have their beliefs, which is fine, but I have mine. No matter what anyone says, I know He's real, and it's like different for everyone else, I believe. But you are on this journey. That's why you have the Bible, and it's like, if when you go through the journey, most likely you will encounter him, but just give him the chance, open up that book.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and there are plenty of people out there that you know don't believe because they think there's not enough evidence, or they need
Yes.
solid proof.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and I think when you go down that road of thought, you're putting faith in the human ability to perceive and understand things that what we're talking about is beyond human understanding.
Yeah.
And you're not going to find direct evidence in the way that you would find evidence of gravity.
Mhm.
But, I see the effects of the wind. I don't see the wind itself. And there is evidence in a broader way of God out there, but not in that hard scientific way. And if somebody's looking for that, they're they're probably not gonna find what they're looking for if
Yeah.
that's gonna make them believe.
Right? Evidence. I mean, what is evidence end of the day, right? It's like my husband, he's a believer, but like he's listening to this podcast now where it goes through the proof and the evidence. And I'm like, I don't want to listen to this. I was like, if that's what you gotta do, please go on. But like I don't need any more evidence. I know he's real. And that's all the reassurance I need.
Yeah.
Is that
Well,
personal
there is
relationship.
they find new archaeological sites all the time that just confirm things that were in the Bible. And that's reassuring, it's exciting that might open the door for other people.
Yeah.
And there are lots of people that find different ways to get there, and if that's helpful to them, great.
You know what's interesting? I'm actually listening to this very popular book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich, and basically the concept of the book is, I'm still finishing it, but it's, you will find what you seek, and if you seek for evidence that God is not real, that's what you're going to find. But if you seek to find Him, that's a different story. So it's just something I took away from that book.
Yeah, no, that's well put. I like that. What's that
Yeah.
called again?
It's in the other room. So it's called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Okay. I'll have to add that to my reading list.
Yeah. Kevin, I loved how you put exactly what you do. You sort of focus on that outcome rather than overcomplicating. I do these sort of services. You said your main goal is helping people communicate, helping businesses communicate their message across to their consumers and wider audiences. And I love the way you formatted that. What I'm curious about is, you said trust is everything.
Yeah, yeah. I said that when we were talking, a couple weeks ago when we first, got together and had a conversation. And you mentioned that in the intro, and I appreciate the way you put that. But it is, I mean, let me think of how to put this. When I talk about people that I've worked with, and dropping names to say I've worked with, I've worked on projects for Amy Grant and Willie Nelson and
Mhm.
Bridgestone Tires and the Ryman Auditorium and Jason Aldean. I'm hoping when I say names like that people recognize them, and that adds some legitimacy to me asking them to put their trust in me and my abilities and my company, because they're hearing of other people who have put trust in me and
Mhm.
seeing that demonstrated. And so, when somebody needs graphic design, they need help communicating, they want to turn to somebody they can trust with the outcome, because the outcome isn't seen yet and they need it
Mm.
completed within a certain amount of time. And they don't want to take a gamble, I'm sure we'll end up talking about AI at some point, but there's a lot of that right now in the design and marketing and communication world where people are using AI for production, but you can't really trust AI the way you can trust
Mm.
an expert, right? You can trust it to a small degree, but not to the full degree. And that's where, even if we were using AI as part of the production pipeline or what have you, you still need someone to guide it and still need someone who knows what they're doing and
Mhm,
understands your goals.
mhm,
And so that's where trust is essential, whether we were talking about AI or not. I think,
mhm,
you know, it's not like we're selling something that's ready made and somebody can click a button and buy it, right? It's custom made communication, and
mhm,
you have to have trust with that, or you're gonna get down the road and not like the results, and then, oh no, we missed the deadline.
mhm,
So
mhm.
people they can trust, and that's to me, that's most of my business is repeat clients, people that come
Mm.
back for that project, and so that's I've come to very much appreciate that kind of trust.
Yeah, yeah, like you need it from the beginning. As I talk to marketing agencies quite often and creative leaders, it's that lead generation tactic, but it's also like valuing the customers you already have. That's why you're getting those repeat customers, which really should be at the forefront of your company and something that you lead with your quality rather than the quantity aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we talked a little bit before the podcast about how important lead generation is for a lot of businesses, and that mine has relied more on this repeat business referral kind of pipeline. And there have been some that have come from promotional efforts and then have led into relationships
Mm.
that but different companies have different ways of solving that problem and different needs for scale as well.
Yes, yeah,
If I were in a place where I were trying to scale the business, that would be a different scenario. There'd be different
of course.
needs there to
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to reach some milestones or you have a goal by a set date. But what I think is important with trust, and I think regardless of what method you were to use, you seem like a very chill guy, and so I can see building a relationship is very important to you. So regardless whether you got your prospects from a cold email, you would still not lose that aspect, and that's sort of the foundation of building up that trust. You just be authentic, realistic.
Yeah, building new relationships is exciting, and
Yeah.
opportunity to meet someone new that might become a fruitful business relationship down the road. That's exciting, and I, try not to discount those possibilities while I'm talking about caring for current clients,
Yeah, of course.
because that's an exciting possibility.
Yeah. And what I wanted to ask, you briefly touched point on it, but with AI, how has AI flipped your world upside down in design?
On a daily basis, I mean, there was something over the weekend that I just read about, a new product and it's, and depending on when people are listening to this or watching this, they're gonna, there'll be something else that will blow their minds that, and it's a daily thing. And it feels like it's a threat to a degree. Um, the thing people don't really understand about AI is that it's not magic. It recognizes and reproduces patterns. It does the predictable thing. The challenge for us is to do the unpredictable thing, do the human thing that um, competes with it. And it's easy for us to say that, you know, as creatives, as professionals, that we're committed to doing that. But the real challenge comes with the people that design the budgets.
Mhm,
If they think that the value is in AI and they cut the budget for marketing, design, advertising because they think AI can do that, whether AI actually can do that or not almost becomes a moot point because
mhm,
if the money's not there to do it, if the budget's not there to accompany the trust that's placed, right? Then that trust isn't as valuable. As much as I love doing what I'm doing, if the budgets go away, I've got to find something else to do. And so that is a little frightening,
yeah.
but it doesn't make me lose confidence in the craft of what we do
Mhm, mhm.
because I'm constantly experimenting with AI, um, and trying to find out what its limitations are, and it's kind of entertaining. And I'm actually working on series of videos I'm going to make to show
Oh,
some of those experiments and
yeah. Oh, that'd be cool.
predictable patterns of what it does. It's really kind of fascinating.
Uh-huh.
But more on that another time. But the point is that it's patterns. It just sophisticated enough to make us feel like it's creative, but it's not even creative. It's just imitating. And it's like if we hand over AI, if we hand over to AI all human creativity, we've peaked collectively. Humans and AI have peaked creatively if we never advance beyond where we are. And that's true of graphic design. It's true of music, of visual art.
Mm.
And think about the most predictable formula of pop music. Things go, trends keep going for a while. And then somebody comes along and blows everyone's mind with something that nobody's ever heard before. Well, we could keep going with the predictable pop and never see another mind blowing
Revolution. Yeah.
again, because if we're leaving AI to do it's just going to keep following those patterns. And that's the challenge for all is to be the innovators, be the ones that break out. Maybe
I like the way you put it.
Thanks. It's yeah, and maybe that is a challenge. It'll light a fire under us as human creators to go, okay, let's not be predictable. Let's see, even knowing that maybe AI has that predictable formula based creating. Maybe they've got that covered. Well, let's do the other thing that it couldn't dream of and go make something amazing that will blow its mind. Then it will try to imitate. But
Mhm.
other people were already imitating the trendsetters. By
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We don't need any more.
We don't need that anymore. If AI is gonna corner the market, let it do the, middle of the road, boring, predictable stuff. Maybe it can do that well, but we probably shouldn't have been making that kind of stuff anyway.
Love the way you put it, by the way. I might steal it and go with it because I literally just had a whole podcast about AI and agree. So basically what AI does, it agrees with the user because then it's sort of like, oh, somebody's listening to me and you will use that AI more.
Right.
So that's one concept we touched point on. Another thing I want to ask you is there emotion in design? Are you evoking emotion in some of your design?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when we're creating visuals that communicate something, we wanna reach people both intellectually and emotionally. So there's
Uh-huh.
definitely emotion in it, and
And
I
that's
think
one thing AI can't do.
that's right, and I think if we lose passion in what we're doing because we're just pushing buttons, then we're no better than the AI, right? It's the human passion behind it that makes it valuable.
But sort of controversial to that thought, you are seeing some advantages to the AI that potentially makes you efficient. So maybe it removes some of the administrative work that would be removed and then you can focus on that creative side. Is there any of those benefits you're seeing as well?
Yeah, I think you put that well. On the administrative side, even on, the research side,
Sure.
organizational side, those kind of things, I've found it to be useful to kind of kickstart a creative process on the organizational side. I'm stuck. I need to find this kind of thing, point me in the right direction. And, um, neurodivergent. Sometimes I get stuck. Task paralysis is a phrase that people use in the ADHD world. And sometimes I've found that AI can be helpful to get past those boundaries, just as a
Mhm.
person sometimes gets stuck in the process. That can be a powerful tool for that kind of practical aspect. I don't want to rely on it for ideas, for ideation, for visual inspiration. If it's going to give me any of those things and I'm relying on it to, it's going to give me the predictable, imitative thing that I probably don't need. On my book list might be a book by a guy named Stefan Mumau. Have you ever heard of him?
Then
He had a couple of, what were his books called? Caffeine for the Creative Team, maybe was one of them. Anyway, opened my eyes to the right way to brainstorm. And um, I'll probably misquote him, but essentially, you get past the predictable ideas, and then
Mm.
you start throwing out ridiculous ideas so that you break into the world of novelty. But
Yeah.
then you keep going so that and there's he had like this graph, like there's a curve, and you get past novelty and you come back to relevance. But
Mm.
until you get into the ridiculous, you don't get past the obvious, and I think there's a element of human creativity there that if I could go to ChatGPT and say, "Give me 6 ideas that solve this, this, and this," and it's gonna give me some things that, I might go, "You know what? I'm gonna go with number 4."
Hmm.
But those are all gonna be predictable because it's giving the same ideas to 1,200 other people in that same 15-second period. Right. We've gotta, as human creators, gotta get past that novelty and where it comes back and balances between novelty and relevance,
Hmm.
where we're meeting the goals of that communication with novel ideas. I really can't imagine AI could ever do that as well
Mm.
as humans can. And, often I think when we're talking about brainstorms, there's a collective of creative minds working together and challenging each other that make that greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah, beautiful thinking there. I did actually, whilst we were just talking here, I researched the book. It's the correct title. It is
Oh,
Caffeine
good.
for the Creative Team, and it is by Stefan Muauf. I can't even pronounce the last
I'm
name.
not sure how you pronounce his name. I saw him speak once and it
Yeah. Oh,
opened
that
my eyes.
sounds great. So there we go. One book that I'm already going to be
There you
taken
go.
away from this podcast. Is there any other one that you would recommend, maybe to somebody who's listening as well?
There's one I recommend to anybody, whether they're in graphic design or not, is Adam Grant's Think Again.
Mm. Ooh.
Just a great book about thinking, about challenging your own perceptions, other people's ideas. Just an incredible book.
Yeah, because if there's a book and that is sort of really stuck with you, like this Think and Grow Rich, and there's another one, Positive Mental Attitude, something like that. It's by Napoleon Hill as well. And you literally attract whatever you think, and it's that power. And he's very big on involving God into this whole process as well. So I think you're going to find it very interesting. Do let me know if you read it and what are your thoughts about it.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
Awesome. Kevin, what I wanna touch point on is, so you talked about retention being the main aspect of that lead generation because you're currently not trying to achieve a growth spur, you're trying to maintain current
Yeah,
levels.
I mean, that's, in a different season, in a different world, maybe, I'd have a different tack on that. But right now, it's about serving the existing clients and,
Mhm.
keeping an eye out for new ones to bring into the fold, expecting, and hoping, I guess, rather than expecting is a better word. That there are a few referrals from people that I know, um, that would pull me in along the way, and it's always fun to have a call out of nowhere, to go,
Mm, yeah.
"Oh, I talked to so and so who, you worked with, and they recommended I talk to you," and, that's always exciting. But, it's not like I'm sitting around doing nothing to get the word out. There is, some attention to SEO. There's having a website at all that has current information and portfolio samples, so that if there is a referral, someone can go and see that information. And then trying to be responsive to when there are communications of prospects coming in. But, there could always be a time and may yet be a time when I say, "You know what? It's time to scale. It's time, I want to grow by hiring 5 people in the next 10 years, and if I decide to do that, then that's where, I would seek outside help to help communicate, right? Same thing we're talking about. Find the experts who are good at communicating
Yes, there we go.
and, and not try to DIY that,
Yeah.
fairly
Yeah,
not.
oh, yeah. I love that. I love how you put
And
that
not
there.
not use AI to solve the problem.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. And what I see really works with other people I speak with, you have that organic marketing approach to yourself, which is that SEO and that thought leadership, which by getting on podcasts, that's a sort of a form of thought leadership. Are you doing anything else? Are you putting content out there? What other aspects of that thought leadership have you
Yeah.
explored or are doing?
No, I love that phrase as a way of talking about that kind of thing. I did another podcast here a few months ago
Mm.
that's a Nashville-based, thing. It was called the Surprisingly podcast, where they talk to different personalities, and their concept was interesting because the host knows nothing about the person they're talking to going into it. The producer knows, and they sort of discover along the way. It was fascinating to go through that. It was uncomfortable in a lot of ways, which is probably entertaining to listen to. But that was a chance to sort of back into talking about my work. We talked about a lot of things, but we did talk a lot about my work. And I've done a few videos. There's some stuff on YouTube. I did a talk last year at a local creative event that I sort of turned into a longer version for a video, and I talked about the power of asking stupid questions.
Mm.
And by that I mean not being afraid to think your questions are stupid
Mm.
because that's the point of questions, is to gain knowledge and to improve what you know. I talked about how that approach has affected my work, my personal life, personal projects, and it was another framework to talk about what I do,
Mm.
but
Mhm.
in a way that I hope would inspire people beyond just the world of what I do.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to do more of all of those kinds of things in the future. I mentioned working on some videos about AI and its place or no, or whether it has a place or not in work and life. And I, I enjoy talking about those kinds of topical things and just talking to people like you. And, if there's a marketing aspect to that, great. I'd rather it have multiple functions than it just be,
Mm.
hey, let me tell you about what I do. Because that's, I don't know. I'm not a salesman. You It's inevitable that we all find ourselves selling
Mm.
ourselves, but I don't want somebody to see me coming and go, oh no, here comes Kevin to sell
Yeah,
me on
yeah.
some graphic design.
I have a couple of interesting stories I've been hearing from some of the guests I have on as well. And it's like they had a marketing agency and they were working out at the gym and they befriended somebody and they started working out together. Sort of 5 months in, they each figure out they've got a business and the guy that he was working out with's got like $1 million business and turns out he was actually looking for a marketing agency. That relationship never started from, oh, this is what I do. Because that's not how you build a relationship. We started from a genuine place of interest. And that's the best way, isn't it? And like you said, I don't think in those situations you need to be a salesman. If anything, you're just an authentic human being. If there's a potential, if they're looking, for example, I work with marketing agencies. Yes, we have this podcast, and if there's a potential, you know who I am, you know where to find me, right? So there is that aspect of it as well. But I'm not gonna hard pitch you like, Kevin, let's get on another call, because especially if you're not looking for that solution, I'm gonna lose that good trust with you.
Yeah. There was something that when I went through a new phase in my career about 11 or 12 years ago, I heard someone say this, and I think it originated with a local pastor. I'm not really sure exactly who to quote, but they said, stop trying to be impressive and work on being known." And that's been a cornerstone for me of my approach since then of, I want to be known for something and I want people to tell other people about it. But before that, I was trying to be impressive. Like, look at what I've
Okay.
done. Look how shiny it is. Don't you want some of what I'm offering the world? And it's far better to me. I like the
Mm.
idea of it, and I appreciate the result better of being known for something. And if you know, and I hope more people do.
Mhm.
It's more authentic, it's more real.
Yeah, I like that saying, and I'm sort of honestly, I'm a student in this chair. I'm actually standing now, but in this chair, I'm a student. I learn your journey. I learn from the mistakes you made in your agency as well as, because I don't like to make my own mistakes. I like to learn from somebody else who made mistakes.
Well,
Because
that's great. And I always like to say everything that I do know, I learned it by doing it the wrong way the first 7 or 8 times, right? And that's maybe the best way to learn. It's certainly not the most efficient though.
I do just want to continue on to what you said as well. Specifically, something of a personal challenge. I've been struggling to put God first with all this sort of podcasting, and then we have a business as well. So it's a lot, and I've had more and more people that believe in God, like yourself, that have come on and literally have given me a little bit of a scolding. Like, get your priorities straight on. How do you prioritize your family life? You have a 10-year-old, you have a wife, and obviously you have an agency, and I'm sure you have hobbies as well. How do you prioritize time for God specifically? Just a sort of personal curiosity of mine.
So that's a great question. It's hard having an agency and not just working all the time. For me, one of the things is to draw clear boundaries, and sometimes that involves, I hate to say, training the clients, getting people accustomed to knowing what to expect. If somebody is emailing me at 5 p.m. and needing something, I want to be sure that I'm understanding how urgent their need really is, and setting the expectation that I'm going to be able to meet this need tomorrow morning, and things like making it clear that I'm available over the weekend, except in emergency. There's always exceptions that happen. Hopefully, those are very rare. And those kind of things make room for family and for
Mhm.
service.
Mhm.
Just trying to have good personal routines on the God front, trying to make time to read the Bible, and everybody learns differently. For me, audiobooks are a better way of getting content than expecting me to read, in front of me. There's our church had a daily Bible reading initiative that they launched at the beginning of the year, trying to get everybody in the church to do it. And I got to confess, I fell off the wagon on that. I'm trying
Okay.
to pick back up. That we had some hard weather times, and our power was out for almost a week, and that's when I broke off, and I didn't keep following the routine. But you don't have to follow a plan to keep the discipline going, right? Because the daily disciplines, if you're doing anything, those are
Mm.
healthy things to do for your soul, for your own good habits, whether it's exercise, whether it's Bible reading, whether it's prayer,
Yeah.
meditation,
It's
whether
good
it's
for you either way. Yeah, it's
right.
whatever, but it's good to stick to something you promised yourself that you will do.
Yeah, yeah, it's and I appreciate that the older I get, that those kind of things those are good for us to make ourselves do something. We need structure, we need to push ourselves to things, and having routines where we've set expectations for ourselves that we expect ourselves to meet.
Yeah.
And it's good for us. And I think um I think God wants for us things that are good for us. God wants us to pray because he wants to know our hearts, but he also knows it's good for us to express our hearts. He knows it's good for us to um you know, th and it's funny when you look at comparative religions, a lot of the Eastern religions that I've read about have, and I forget which one, I'll not do justice to this, but the practice of loving kindness is either a Buddhist or a Hindu thing, and they discovered that it's good for the soul to express good feelings toward other people. And I think it's interesting that that's something that we learn as Christians that we should do in prayer. We're not just sending it out into the void. We're
Mm.
sending it up to God. But I think God knows that's good for us to spend time.
Yeah. There's
Not to,
there's a reason.
right. There is a higher reason for it, but other humans discovered that it was good for us.
Okay, that's an interesting aspect. I didn't know that.
I think back to the point that God knows that those disciplines are good for us, and that
Mhm.
we should listen.
And apply them to our life, at least give it like a testing phase. Kevin, my last question to you is, have you set any milestones for the business? Anything that you're trying to achieve sort of end of 2026?
I guess this year I'm more reactive than proactive,
Mhm.
and trying to. I mean, I guess the goal in a broad sense is to meet client needs and be available. So not as such, but I'm excited about some of my clients.
Oh.
Some of my clients' goals that are coming up. Um,
Nice.
by the time anybody hears this, the new Jason Aldean album will have come out. It comes out while we're talking later this week, um, called "Songs About Us." It's a double album, and I did a lot of creative for that, including the cover and the package, and um, lots of advertising and vehicle wraps and all kinds of things. It's that kind of thing that, like, I'm excited about, those as benchmarks to see things get out there into the world. I'm working on a website right now for a local nonprofit organization that helps people experiencing homelessness and helps
Mhm.
beyond that. And I'm excited to see that launch and help improve how they're able to serve those needs. It's those kind of things that those are the benchmarks for me, that I'm working toward right now. Next
Yeah.
year, who knows?
Ah, maybe we need to do another podcast then.
Maybe so. Let's do a follow up and see how
Make sure you have
2026
a
went.
list of the books as well, so you're
Oh, I'll
prepared.
have a stack for you that time. Yeah,
Kevin, thank you so much for spending almost an hour with me and actually diving into some important topics that are very close to my heart as well, which is God and making time for God. And hopefully anyone who's listening also is a little bit curious and has that little motivation now to get that Bible, maybe start their journey with God as well, which would be very exciting.
absolutely. Sounds great.
And for anyone who's watching, Kevin, do you have a link or a website you want to direct them to if they're interested to find out more information about what you're
Yes,
doing?
I have 2 links I would love to direct you to.
Okay.
collidecreative.com is, my website. My company's called Collide. I have to watch out with my American Southern accent to not say Clyde,
Yeah.
C-O-L-I-D-E, that's not it. Collide, creative.com. The other one is kevintucker.com. That's more of a personal profile website where you can find some of the other content I was talking about, like the stupid questions video.
Yeah.
That's on there. Those cross over a bit, but that's more my blog philosophy.
For anyone who's watching, if you enjoy this episode, please like and subscribe and let me know favorite takeaway down below in the comments.